that is what my Wrangler 392 sounded like on startup. Well, that is until last week. But before we get into it, you're listening to the Truck Show Podcast, and I'm your host, Holman, coming to you from beautiful Huntington Beach, California. Last week, I took a drive up to Oxnard, California, where I met with David Borla from Borla Performance to talk all things exhaust, as well as get a new S-Type exhaust installed on the Jeep. Borla, as you know, has been one of the industry benchmarks and leaders in aftermarket exhaust for decades. In fact, I remember the ads from Car and Driver Magazine back in the day showcasing the super rad intercooled tips that were a Borla signature, and it was those ads that made Borla an aspirational brand for me personally. Today, the exhausts are still made from T304 stainless steel, pack some really cool tech such as the Switchfire crossover pipes, and come with a 1,000,000-mile warranty. Borla exhausts are also proudly made in the USA, with 3-inch piping, 4-inch tips, and a higher tucked-up rear exit that still includes the valves. I've been eyeing this system for a long time, and I'm so glad to finally have it on the new Jeep. So we have lots to talk about, but first, let's give a big shout-out and thank you to the companies that make the Truck Show Podcast possible. The Truck Show Podcast is proudly brought to you in partnership with AMSOIL, the maker of the best synthetics and the same ones we use in our rigs. Did you know AMSOIL is more than just synthetic oil? They also make some of the finest lubricants, greases, additives, filters, car care products, and yes, even merch. We use AMSOIL products to protect our rigs, and you can do the same by heading over to AMSOIL.com. Do you need a knife? Then head over to Kershaw.kiusa.com and explore their line of exceptional pocket knives. They have a huge selection of quality knives from EDCs to Made in America blades and even automatics. Score one for yourself today. And if you want to treat yourself to the latest in adventure, gear, and upgrades for your vehicle, go to OVRMag.com and use the code @TruckShowPodcast for a discount on print or a 1-year digital subscription for free. Please help me to keep the Truck Show Podcast free by supporting our sponsors or leaving reviews on Apple or Spotify. And don't forget to check the Truck Show Podcast website, truckshowpodcast.com, for the latest deals.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel, electricity, and on gasoline. The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Oh, oh.
It's the Truck Show with your host, Holman.
That's right. You're listening to another great episode of the Truck Show Podcast, and in this episode, we will bring you some great interviews and content from Borla, and we'll start that off with my day heading up there and hear from David Borla himself. So let's get started. Morning, everybody. I'm heading up to Oxnard, California, which should be about a 2-hour drive in LA traffic from where I am. And heading to go see a friend of the show, David Borla. And I've got the 392, so I'm going to replace this horrible sounding stock exhaust with something a little bit more palatable. The truth is the stock exhaust sounds pretty good, but there's some limitations on it with ground clearance, and just it looks bad. It's a little bit harsher on the edge, a little bit kind of raspy, whereas the Borla is a little bit more mellow, tucked up higher, tips are higher, and I'm really excited to get that on it. So I'm doing the Borla 392 exhaust, and it's going to be in black, and should look great on the Jeep. So David had talked to me, and we were catching up, and he said, "What are you doing on the 392?" And I said, "I don't know yet." And he said, "Well, come let me put an exhaust on it." And I said, "I would love that." So we're going to do that, and I'll get a quick interview from him, and we'll talk about Borla, what they're up to these days. I'm kind of curious to see how the EV mandate has affected his business and what he thinks the outlook is going forward as a small business in the ICE space. He did have some technology before with making electric vehicles have some audio feedback and sound a little bit more visceral for the driving experience. So we'll cover all that stuff with him. And looking forward to a pretty cool day of installing the new exhaust and talking to David and driving it home with a big smile on my face. All right, so I made it all the way to Oxnard, California in traffic, so I didn't get to stretch my legs too much with the stock exhaust one last time. But I'm sitting here with David Borla, and you've always been a supporter of the podcast and a friend of the show, and we haven't checked in with you in a while. And when I got the new Jeep, we were talking, you're like, what are you doing for exhaust? And I'm like, what can I do for exhaust? So I'm glad that I'm here and we're able to get your exhaust on the new Jeep.
Thank you for coming. Always love to see you. Great to have you here. So
it's great to be here. Much. It's been a crazy year, but
I know it has.
Back in action. So we just finished putting the exhaust on the Jeep. So I feel like there's a lot to talk about, but what I wanted to focus on first is we'll talk about the exhaust on the Jeep, and then there's a lot of stuff happening in the industry, a lot of stuff happening in the company, and bring people up to speed with Borla and where you guys are at. And I'll just start by saying, one of my motivations for putting the exhaust on is the factory 392 sounds pretty darn good. Like it's not bad, but there's a little bit of harshness around it at certain RPM ranges. The tips are incredibly low. The muffler is like a garbage can that hangs under. So for clearance, that's an issue. And you guys have this beautiful, either an attack or an S-type. I went with S-type where it reuses the factory valve, so I still got the happy neighbor button, and I got the blacked out version. And so it just disappears under the back of it. It allows you to see the axle and just way more clearance. So those are just some of my reasons. But let's talk about the system itself. Like, what are you doing on it? What's special?
Well, I just want to reiterate again that sort of retaining that functionality of the bimodal or multimodal exhaust was sort of a non-starter. Like we had to get that done because, frankly, it's so cool. And
I use it all the time because there's times where I may get a little frisky out on the roadway, and then I go to quiet mode, and everybody looks around and goes, "What made all that noise? It couldn't have been that slow ass Jeep, right?"
Yeah, well, that's the intent of that.
And I can come home in the neighborhood or late at night, and I don't bother anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And so aftermarket, should be an upgrade, and so, you don't want to lose that functionality. Yeah. I think for us, what's really cool about it is it gives us two different notes to play with. So we're focusing on both of them. It's not like we're just like, oh, well, we'll ignore the quiet path, just make it quiet or whatever, and, we'll focus on the loud path. So that's a lot of fun for us to now have more than one note to play with.
Well, as a musician, you got the polyphonic stuff going on, and we'll talk about the switchfire because that's on this exhaust. It's nice to know that there's not like a penalty of being in one or the other. And everybody, I did some research on reviews because I was curious. I'm like, I know I want this exhaust, but what are owners saying? And everybody's like, it was funny. There's like the S-type versus attack people, and they're like going at it. No, mine's better. Nobody went, oh, get this one because that one isn't as cool. No, everybody's like entrenched in their camp. Like they're both awesome. They're both good. And the clips I've heard online, and I've heard this exhaust in person on our friend Jackson Ellis's Jeep.
Yeah.
But
my neighbor, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah,
good friend of ours. And the Borla's deeper. It mellows out the rough edges, and it just sounds so smooth. And the Hemi's kind of has a blattiness to it anyway that's kind of a signature Hemi sound. And you don't take away from that. You just make it sound way better.
You touched on a lot of really important things. Just want to kind of set the table for this conversation, although we all know this, but I think it's an important thing whenever you talk about sound. I usually say sound is subjective, but even that's a little bit too much of a sort of blanket statement. There are parts of sound that are subjective. There probably are some parts of it that aren't, right? And so what we want to do is we want to eliminate all the objectionable stuff that everybody's going to say this sucks.
Yeah.
Or not like, or whatever, want to be improved upon. So once we've done that, then it's a question of, okay, now let's address the subjective side of it, right? And the subjective side of it typically kind of has two elements to it. One is just how loud it is overall. And then there's also the kind of character of the sound. So think of an old school stereo, but you have a volume knob, right? And then you have an EQ. The attack and S-type thing, yes, attack is louder, but there's also a little bit of an EQ difference there. And it's nuanced. It's tough for us because you can drive yourself crazy with it.
Just chasing down.
Constantly chasing it down. And, for us, at some point, we have to commit to something.
Yeah.
There's another side of it that's not really that much fun, but it's a reality, which is just, can you make it?
Yeah.
Is it manufacturable? So sometimes we may get to a point where we're really happy with the sound, fitment, power, all that, and we're like, you know what? Our production guys are going to kill us. Like, this is just too hard to make.
Yeah.
So we're constantly fighting all of those things. And I'm really happy to hear that we landed someplace with both of them that people like.
Yeah, people love them. And I think that you can go with a louder exhaust if the sound quality is better. Because I much rather have something that is smooth and audibly pleasing than something that's harsh and quieter. I'm okay with it being louder if it sounds good, because I'm going to enjoy it and it doesn't hit my ears the same way.
We're also looking for, and I'd like to think we did this with both, but it's really for you and the market to decide. To some extent, you want the throttle to be your volume pedal, right? Like when you're under a real light, you're feathering the pedal or whatever. It's like
coming in the neighborhood at 1 a.m.
You want, and even the attack, even in the loud position, you're still going to be able to it's not going to give you that kind of tugboat sound under a real light throttle. It'll be throaty, you'll hear it, it's different than stock. You'll definitely get that cold start and all bark. That, but there's a point where you're just kind of going down the street at, low speed, low RPM, and we could tend to call that resonance, but it's even beyond that. Like, our systems are well balanced. We want them to be well balanced. So that's a big part of it too.
So Borla million-mile warranty, T304 stainless, those are kind of hallmarks of the brand. Mm-hmm. And on my exhaust, we're putting it on, we take off the garbage can hanging under the back, and I'm looking at the pieces come out of the box. We've got the muffler unit, and I was actually surprised that the free flow open valve path and the closed path actually had different diameters of pipes going into or around the muffler, that they weren't the same. And then the other thing was, I guess it would be the crossover, which has your switchfire technology, looks like almost like a braided rope, the way that the pipes intersect and cross over each other and twist around. What's the point of all of that, and what makes the 392 exhaust special?
So a switchfire, the reason for it and what it does and the intent is just the same thing in a sense that X pipe would do or a H pipe would do. Call them crossover pipes. And the reason you do that is to blend the pulses from each bank, essentially.
So if you ever heard of original first-gen Viper, you know that's a V10, but you only hear 5 cylinders on each side.
You're right. Yeah.
And it sounds weird.
It does.
It's unique, but it's weird.
Unique, again, sound subjective, so it's like people like different stuff. And
in those cars in later years, they blended the exhaust and made it come out, and
the sound was better.
The sound was better. Yeah. So the way you're doing it in this sort of like braided look of this kind of braided, twisted thing, is that essentially you said H pipe and X pipe, is that doing the same thing but in a more compact package? Is that how? It's
not so much the packaging, although we do offer a hydroform version of that, which I don't know if you saw it yet, but maybe on the way out I can show you the hydroform version. It's not necessary on the Jeep. Round is fine, and if round's fine, there's no reason to put but on the latest generation Mustang, couldn't fit round pipes in there.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's a packaging thing, but really the overall design of Switchfire and what we patented, is about two things. One, it's about stamped X pipes and merge X pipes sound different, but like it's tough to really differentiate yourself with an X pipe.
Yeah.
So we challenged ourselves. We were like, what can we do that's going to be different with a crossover pipe? And we spent years working on this and came up with a lot of different designs. And this design did two things. First of all, it just sounded the best. Much different from an X pipe, stamped or merged, traditional X pipe. But it also outflowed all of them, big time. So it's that magic combination of like it performs better and it sounds better.
So when I looked at my muffler and it's got the two exhaust paths or different diameter, is that a sound thing, or what was the decision to do that? And I just thought it was novel because I've seen a lot of different 392 exhausts and a lot of them have the same diameter and they haven't gotten creative with things like that.
Interestingly, so much of this just comes back to the same stuff but from a different angle. So we were just talking about Switchfire, right? And the answer was power and sound. Here we are again.
Yeah.
Why did we do that? Because we had a certain sound target we wanted to meet and we had a certain performance target that we wanted to meet. We never want to reduce back pressure over anything factory. So we're measuring what the factory is doing in those positions, and then we have to meet or exceed. Usually exceed. In some cases we want to meet it because the computer on the car, whatever, but mostly it's like we want to exceed the flow. So in that case, that combination, particularly on the quiet path, was yes, a smaller diameter is going to help you quiet it down a little bit, but you can't just choke it, because then you're going to create all kinds of back pressure.
Yeah.
So, through frankly a lot of trial and error, it was just like you want that delta between loud and quiet.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about earlier, it's really easy to ignore the quiet path, but in a lot of cases, the quiet path is actually more difficult. I mean, fast and quiet as an exhaust manufacturer is much more difficult than fast and loud. I know fast and loud's more exciting, and we love fast and loud, by the way.
But sometimes you don't want to draw as much attention to yourself.
Attenuating sound without hindering performance is harder.
Yeah.
So just got out of my mom's office, right? She was talking about the old days. I mean, it was really all about, for the first 20 years of this company's history, it was all about like giant horsepower, and how do you quiet it down? Like large horse. I mean, all the way up to NHRA.
Yeah.
We're running Borla because we were the best in the world at fast and quiet. So that quiet path is fun and should not be ignored. But that's the answer to why that combination is there. Now, there's some internals in the muffler you can't see.
Sure.
So there's more to it than just the pipe diameter, right?
Well, and then there's the resonators, or the smaller mufflers that are upstream, that come after the switch wire before it goes into the muffler. They're heavy, and the perforated tubes, and kind of did a little, little sciencey, exploring in there. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. And I guess they're a little bit different between the S-Type and the Attack for the sound you want to make. But everything that came out of the box, you guys had it, sent in from your manufacturing facility. And everything's coming out, and I was like playing with it, looking at it. I'm like, I can't wait, and taking the pictures of it under my Jeep. I'm like, man, this thing looks so cool.
Awesome.
You'll never see it, right? Unless I'm like up on a boulder, but I know it's there.
Box appeal matters these days too.
Yeah.
Wasn't as important.
I got my hat.
Wasn't as important, 30 years ago as it is now.
Sure.
But we want that whole experience. We probably put a little bit more labor in there than we need to, just to have that out-of-the-box experience.
Yeah.
But it's just part of it, and we want to give everybody that experience too.
Now, I'll also say, for anybody who's looking for a Borla exhaust, go to Borla.com. But one thing you guys do really well is you do a lot of videos and sound, and you really explain the difference between the various models. And you could spend, hours on the site just going through the different sound profiles, different videos, different vehicles, and then the technology. Your website's really good in providing so much information. I think it really helps somebody who's trying to decide on which flavor they want to get to where they want to go.
Thank you. Yeah. When the internet first came out, I personally, as a musician and sort of understanding recording techniques and all that, and as a company, we kind of took this position of like, we're not doing that, because we put so much into this. And you got to be able to hear every nook and cranny, and what you really wind up doing is comparing, microphones and recording techniques and all kinds of stuff that really doesn't matter in the end. But as things evolved, a couple of things happened. One, technology got better, so we were able to capture more of those nooks and crannies and nuances. But then also, I think the end user got a better understanding of like what to expect from a video, and sort of, what it's really going to sound like in real life. You can't recreate a lot of what you hear, especially on a Jeep like that, motor like that, is a vibration. And when you're sitting on a laptop, and headphones,
it just doesn't come through the same way.
It's not going to come through. But I think we've all gotten to a point now where sort of like your average enthusiast understands that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting thing that's happened in car culture, I think, overall. So. Now we're all about it, and I got to tell you, I mean, end users on YouTube have awesome, guy will just take out his iPhone and it's like, it sounds great.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible what you can do with an iPhone these days.
Yeah, so that's really fun for exhaust companies like us to be able to do that.
So let's talk about that. Big changes in the automotive industry in regulation. EV mandate got repealed. Obviously, there's kind of two stories for Borla here. You were working on something for EVs, and then also I'm sure there's another part of the company that's really happy that ICE is going to be around for a while. And V8's coming back to Rams. Ram's kind of an interesting...
Hallelujah, by the
yeah,
way.
right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting story because you can go with a super quiet turbo straight 6, but people still want an exhaust 4, or you can just be rowdy and go, I want V8, I want people to know I got a V8.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get to the EV stuff in a minute because I know you've got something that you want to show off, but let's talk about what does that mean for Borla, what does that mean for the business going forward, and how have consumers responded? Because I think Ram said the first day that they allowed V8 orders, they had like 15,000, or maybe it was, something like that. It was some obnoxious number of people ordered a V8 the first day, and they're hitting dealership lots right now with sign of protest badge and everything. Did you have to develop a new exhaust for it, or did the old exhaust fit? Are people calling you going, no, I need to be louder, I want to exercise my my V8 muscle here?
So there's a lot to unpack here. Let's talk about the Ram and the V8 first, and then we can get to some of the other stuff. Look, for me personally, I don't necessarily have any data to back this up, but of all the badges and brands out there that I just think of a V8, especially on a truck, it's Ram.
Yeah.
And without casting stones, and I wasn't in any of those meetings, and look, we were all under... Everybody was confused, and we'll talk about that side of it in a minute. In hindsight, it's now easy to look back and say, well, but at the time, it was like nobody knew where this was going. And I got to tell you something. Don't forget, Stellantis was primarily being directed, run by non-Americans.
Yeah.
So I can
in fact,
totally...
the French pushed a lot of the Americans out and took away, sort of the edge from the enthusiast brands that made those brands who they were.
So I could totally see how a bunch of non-Americans in a conference room, in a boardroom, could convince themselves that Hurricane motor made a lot of sense in a Ram.
Yeah.
That motor is bitching.
Yeah.
Like it is.
It's smooth. Even the standard output is incredible. Like if you put somebody... I blindly got into a Rebel with the standard output engine, and I couldn't tell you which one I had. It was so good. But it was missing something.
I'm trying to search for this. Yet I had no interest in buying one.
Yeah.
It was like a very complimentary of it.
Yeah.
And I get it.
It's fuel efficient. It's quiet. It builds torque like a freight train. It's comfortable. But driving that truck, as good as it was, I still felt like I was missing something. It was almost like too isolated from the things that I love as a truck guy.
Yeah.
Like it was almost too quiet, it's probably technically, and maybe you could make the argument it's a better engine, but it just is missing something that I love about a Hemi Ram.
And I think that missing something, which I can't articulate, doesn't show up in a boardroom or in a conference room.
Yeah.
And so, especially for people who don't really intuitively get this market.
Sure.
So I could totally see how that happened. Makes a lot of sense. But then again, we were all just kind of like, this is, especially with the 5-liter F-150 still out there and the 6.2 liter.
Which again is a great engine. 5-liter Coyote for its displacement is awesome.
I mean, I still want a single cab,
F-150,
short bed,
totally
5-liter. I mean,
that's what I would get as my toy car.
That would be my daily driver.
Because it's sort of under the radar, but with the all-wheel drive transfer case, you can kind of smoke anybody. 700 horsepower is super easy with
the right package.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, just like to me, that I've always loved a short wide pickup truck slammed, and it's totally impractical. And yet, that is probably like if somebody said if you had extra money laying around to just get whatever car you wanted. I had this conversation with a friend the other day. He's like, he's got a Range Rover and he's got a Ferrari California and he's had a GT2 and wanted a GT3 and just like he's always like mixing and matching his cars. He had a Ferrari what was a 430 I think is what it was, and he's always like, I sold that and I got this. He's like doing the like supercar hop, right?
Yeah.
And we had this conversation and I'm like, he's like, if you could buy anything, I'm like F-150.
Yeah.
He's like, what? I'm like, I'd do like the Roush regular cab.
Short
Coyote, short bed, and I would just terrorize everybody.
That's so cool. So, and then look, Ford already had, 2 different versions of the EcoBoost.
Yeah.
There was already a 6-cylinder Ram.
Yeah.
So it was just tough to see where this was going to fit, and that's kind of what played out. So it's not surprising to me that when they bring the 5.7 back, that they would have that kind of
or expand 392 into Gladiator, which is unofficially official.
Another thing,
one of the worst kept secrets, and I'm sure people are going to be clamoring for a Gladiator exhaust when that time comes.
Yeah. As far as, it's very similar, and our existing exhaust system, you can get it on the truck, but there are some nuances to it, and even from a just from a perception standpoint, it's such a landmark moment to have this come back. We feel like it really deserves its own part number and its own sort of attention. So we're going to go the extra step and do something a little bit different for it, rather than just say, well, the old one fits.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, one of the things, especially in the off-road space, has been getting a lot of attention is sort of the high tuck or high clearance exhausts. And you look at a Toyota Tacoma where the exhaust literally hangs like 4 inches below the body out the back. It's terrible. And a lot of companies make a high clearance exhaust, and you guys are, one of those companies as well. But most companies look like they're just taking a bandsaw to the end of it, and it's just tucked. There's no branding on it. There's no tip, because it's like, well, it's high clearance. You guys are starting to introduce some exhausts. I kind of got a peek today at this laser cut end, which is got the Borla brand. It's got some shape to it. And it's a little bit of a nod back to me, it's like the detail that shows somebody cared, right? It's like, we know that it probably won't be seen by most people, but the owner or anybody who goes under and appreciates the exhaust is going to know that this is our exhaust, and that we went to the extra step of finishing it. Even if it doesn't have a tip, at least there's a finish to it that a car guy can appreciate the extra step that you guys took. I thought it was awesome.
I really appreciate you saying that. That's the intent. The company as a whole is like this, but also the guys that work and do that work down there, they are master craftsmen. They're not doing this because, a big part of why they do this is because they really truly love it. You know, like an Italian shoemaker, or, someone who just, we all know people like this that are like, look, if this is coming from me, like, it can't look like that.
Your name is on it.
Yeah, I mean, but
you signed the paperwork. It's yours.
Your heart is in it, and, and all those things. So that is who we are. I can tell you, we probably take a little bit of a hit financially, and we're okay with that. We do a lot of stuff like that. That if if a bean counter got in here and they were like, well, shave this off, shave that off, shave this off. We're not about any of that stuff. Like, it's just, we want to give the best product we can and the best experience we can, and we don't let anything out the door that we feel like, man, I wouldn't put that on my truck.
Well, and going back to the master craftsman, like, I've met some of the guys in the shop. I've been here before. We've done installs and stuff, and it's really easy to go, oh, a muffler shop, how hard is it to bend a tube and do some welding? But you guys have really genuinely have a lot of technology that goes into what you're doing. Like, it may look like a pipe with a can on the end, but what goes into designing the internals, to our conversation before, diameters, lengths, the sound, no drone, being able to warranty something for basically the life of the vehicle. Like, there's a lot. You can't have just an average person out there building it. You have to have people who actually care about the product.
Absolutely, and understand the individual markets too. Building something for a Toyota owner is different than a Ram owner. Different than a Corvette owner, of course, and really understanding the nuances of that market. It's funny you bring up the Toyota trucks, because one thing we really agonized over and spent a ton of time on, we were late to market over it and all this stuff, was that having, for both, I believe, the Tacoma and the Tundra, I'm pretty sure, we have two, dual side exits, right? So does everybody else. What's the difference with us? Everybody else is going single pipe out of the muffler and just putting a Y pipe right at the end to get two tips. So you kind of get that two-tip look, but you can kind of see it's a stamped Y pipe, and okay, it's cool, But we were like, that's just not really the best product. And so if you look at our stuff, it's two pipes coming out of the muffler, and so you get a full, like, two pipes and two tips coming out. Sounds a little different, flows better, but it's just a better part. It just looks better. It fits the truck better.
That detail of somebody cared about the details.
And it's so tight in there. It took a long time for us to do that. And there were so many times where we wanted to be like, you know what? Let's just put the Y pipe at the end of it and be done with it.
Yeah.
But we didn't. And now, I mean, you look at it and it's distinctly different from anybody else.
Now you have a marketplace differentiator because yours looks like yours.
If you order the black version, the whole section coming out of the muffler is black. It's not just black tips on a stainless pipe and raw stainless pipe. So I could go on forever, but thank you for acknowledging the nuances, because it's important we hear this, because sometimes you're like, does anybody care?
Yeah, no, they care, especially enthusiasts. All right, so 2 questions. Is there anything right now that's super popular that maybe surprised you, or is there anything that's kind of driving the exhaust business? You just have a ton of orders and it seems like everybody wants one. And then the other question is, what's the worst sounding car or truck stock right now that you guys put your exhaust on, you all looked at each other and had a moment and went, wow, we did that?
Wow, that's a tough one. So the first one, you want to stick with trucks, or you want to just talk overall?
Whatever you want to do.
So,
either way.
Back to V8s and all that other stuff, Charger and Challenger, same problem, right?
Yeah.
And then Camaro's gone.
Right.
And it was like all there is a Mustang, and the Mustang's kind of pricey, the Dark Horse and all that other stuff. So major industry shift that we saw, and things swing one way and swing back the other way. I know Dodge is coming back hard with with those cars, and thankfully they are. But a lot of that market moved over to JDM.
Oh, interesting.
Because the Subaru BRZs and it's like, if I'm gonna drive, if I'm not gonna have a V8, I'm buying that car. So that's been pretty interesting. And then also you sort of see the as time passes, right? Millennials in particular are having more and more buying power now, and so the cars that they like, they grew up watching Fast and Furious.
Sure.
So it's not a big deal for them to go to those cars.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of interesting. I got to tell you, the Colorado Canyons, the Rangers, particularly the Colorado Canyon.
With the 2.7?
Man, that thing doesn't sound very good.
Yeah.
So I believe we made it sound a lot better. There are probably some people out there rolling their eyes who have seen the Borla video.
Yeah.
Because if you just watch that video by itself and you're expecting it to sound like a 6.2 liter Silverado,
Sure.
It doesn't. But we dramatically improved the sound of that thing. So I'm really proud of what we did. It's important to remember that exhaust systems don't make sound. It's so important for the average person to understand this. I get a lot of questions, literally. Be like, if I take the exhaust off of my, Silverado 6.2 liter and somehow make it fit on my 6-cylinder, is it going to sound like the 6.2 liter? And the answer is no. It's not. The
engine makes the sound.
Yeah, and we're shaping and working. We got to make that engine live its best life.
It could be, is it forced induction? What fuel is it? What's the firing order? I mean, you look at something like
totally.
This is always. Maybe we've talked about this before, but V6s in general are pretty hard to make sound good. And there's a couple companies out there. I would say Nissan, especially like a GTR, even their VQ series from the factory. Not loud, but really good sounding. Nissan when it goes by. And it's pretty amazing what they do with exhaust.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you go
350Zs, G35.
All those cars. Yeah, they sound spectacular.
Great. And you don't have to even turn around.
No, you know it.
Even with a stock motor, a stock exhaust, you know what that thing sounds
100%. Like. And then you go to an EcoBoost, which is also dual overhead cam, mid 3-liter, direct injected V6, and it sounds like a farm implement. It's not sexy at all. And even in the GT40, it's kind of like, or the Ford GT, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But then you have a GTR going next to it, and the GTR sounds so much better. And they're both turbocharged. They're both, you look at them in the specs, and they're pretty similar in the construction and what they're doing. And the Nissan just sounds so much better. I don't know what they've done to figure out V6s, but those are one of those companies that makes a great sounding V6, and everything else kind of sounds not great.
And exhaust companies are going to work with what we got.
Yeah.
So that's the best we're going to be able to do. That's the best we should do. And we got a EcoBoost Mustang here right now. Right? We're not chasing a 5-liter sound. Or we do the exhaust for Shelby Super Snakes. You know, we're not going to chase that sound.
Yeah.
We have a really good idea of what it should sound like.
And it's a different customer. You know, somebody who, I mean, even go back to the old days of Fox body Mustangs and let's say the early 80s where you had the SVO with the 2.3 turbo and you still had the 5-liter guys, the V8. Totally different customer. And even today when you look at like the secondary market of like Bring a Trailer or like a Barrett Jackson, still a different customer who appreciates a SVO 2.3 liter Mustang versus an older 5-liter Fox body. Completely different, and I think it's the same with the new ones.
I was just looking at the old Taurus SHOs.
Oh,
you know, the thing about that one is I like the body style with the 6-cylinder more than the body style with the V8. I want the V8 in the old older, but the boxy.
I just like the
style,
Yamaha intake where they had the snakes, you know. And they made it. They were all sticks until they said, "Oh, we're going to add automatic." And they punched it from 3 liters to 3.2 liter to kind of make up for the torque converter, you know, sucking power out. But I remember reading Car and Driver back in the day where like this is the closest American car to a BMW 3 Series, and it's a front-wheel drive car. That should tell you everything you need to know because Car and Driver did not like American cars.
No.
And the Taurus SHO was something special.
That time, especially during that time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So look, for us, it's all about keeping that personality, that individuality. You talk about the fact that they're different markets.
Yeah.
You know, we're here to take that personalization and that all those nuances to the next level, and that's what we're trying to do here. You know.
So I've seen a couple, you know, in the parking lot, and sales have been off the chart. But like the new Honda Passport, the Trail Sport, I believe they sold 8 to like it was 8 to 1 or something like that versus non-Trail Sport. Like it just exploded beyond the Honda guys' imaginations, and that was really driven by the American side. And the Americans, you know, told the company like, we own off-road and UTVs and motorcycles, and why don't we own it in cars? And they sort of got this side project like, okay, let's see what you can do with it. And they made a really credible, for not having a low range and being unibody, they made a very credible vehicle in terms of off-road ability. And all of a sudden the market is responding because Honda in that space is not unusual. Just a Honda car or SUV in the space is. Are you guys looking at some of those more explosive growth categories? Is there going to be a Borla exhaust available for a Honda Passport?
You might have missed it at the SEMA show, but it was in the Honda booth at the SEMA show.
Okay.
So it's already out of the bag.
Because I remember I went to your booth and I'm like, I didn't see any Honda Passports there.
It wasn't in our booth. It was in the Honda booth, in the Honda booth. So
and that was on that one that had all the racks and stuff on it?
Yeah, and they also had it on the wall. Like they had the exhaust on the wall, just showing the exhaust by itself.
That's awesome.
So RAV4 has been pretty good for us.
Really?
And, you know, so yeah. So, I mean, it's funny. It's like we love making everything. We make cars sound cool. That's what we love to do. You know, it's like we don't hate on anything, and if somebody wants to get a better sound and they're looking for something, I mean, let's face it, there's kind of what you see on the internet, and that stuff's getting more and more sort of like almost becoming a caricature of itself because everybody's trying to get attention with all this crazy stuff, and the whole intent of it is like, you know, not to show things you see every day. But the reality of it is, you know, give you a peek behind the curtain, like the majority of stuff we sell is for people that have lives and kids and mortgages and, you know, and so those guys can't necessarily buy a GT3 or, you know, drive it every day, or even if they have a GT3 and they are driving something else, it's like they're looking for something. And so being able to kind of serve that part of the market's a lot of fun for us.
So I think that's a good segue. Talk about, hey, we don't hate on anything. Well, you went after the EV market with the Mach and the Lightning, and I know I saw the Lightning downstairs, and you got some cool stuff on that. And you had shown us a couple years ago some of the prototypes with the, I guess you would call it the visceral maker, because they're EVs, as good as they are with performance and as fun as they could be to drive. There's almost no feedback. We've talked about this before. And I know you as an exhaust company are looking at, well, is ICE on the horizon? What's our next big product move going to be? Where are we going to go? And you started kind of doing R&D on these EV exhaust sound systems. And that whole idea has kind of evolved over the past few years. Where are you at with it now? And what does the Lightning out there represent?
Well, first of all, I think when we kind of looked at what was happening with EVs and EVs coming, we looked at it from this perspective. One is back to what I said earlier, right? We just like to make cars sound cool, right? And this was just another.
Yeah.
I mean, it still has wheels and it still moves down the road, and so we weren't afraid of it for that reason. If anything, it was genuine that we really wanted to make them sound cool. And really, frankly, wherever anything goes, this was the next part of it. Humans have 5 senses, and until we mutate, like that's never going to change, no matter how much technology moves forward, right? And really, when you're driving, it's like, touch and sight and sound, right? Because maybe smell is a little bit a part of it, and taste, I don't know, but like primarily it's those 3, right?
Well, it's taste when I'm driving, because I usually would shove my face with a chili dog or something.
Totally different thing. So you take sound out of that equation. Not only are you losing sound, we talked about earlier about how there's vibration also, right?
Yeah.
So you're pulling away at least a third, if not more than a third, of the feedback that you're getting while you're driving.
I would say more than that. I mean, you get into something super isolated. I think Rivian R1T comes to mind versus Hummer EV, where GM recognized that there was a disconnect between the input of the driver and the output of the vehicle. And I remember when I was with Motor Trend, we did a cross-country Transamerica trail trip with Rivian, and there were times we were off-road, especially in the mud, where what was happening out at the pedal wasn't correlating what was at the tires. I was doing like 20% throttle or 30, and the tires are all spinning, but I have no idea. There's no tach, there's no feedback. And when Hummer or GM went and developed the Hummer, they gave kind of a auditory, sensory noise that's kind of this futuristic sound, so that at least there's some sort of feedback, because they recognize, oh, to your point, these senses are missing. And I think that's one of the problems of EVs, is they're almost like isolation pods. It's almost too quiet that I guess situational awareness. I don't always know what's going on. Like there's a warning or a screen flash, but we're all sick of screens. Sometimes I want to put the screens away and I just want to feel the vehicle.
So yeah, absolutely. And I understand fully that there are times you're driving where maybe that's not the case, right? You go into the grocery store and maybe you miss it a little bit, but it's not like, you're really going to get yourself in trouble because you can't hear the car, right? Now, let's go all the way up to, I don't know if you're familiar with Matt Field, who we sponsor. He's a drift racer, Formula Drift. And he was here the other day, and he was like, look, when I'm, making a run, I'm not staring at my instrument cluster. I'm listening to what's going on with the car, and like sound is really important feedback.
Even off-road, I'm wheeling with wheels down because I want to hear what the car is doing, and honestly, having an exhaust that gives me more feedback is a good thing off-road. I want to hear it. I want to know what the vehicle's up to.
So there's functionality to it too, right? Then there's just simply like, we like hearing it. We just like that feedback. It's just a pleasant experience, right? And the aftermarket is about enthusiasts who want to connect with their vehicle, right? And that connection really matters, So we kind of started there, and we said sound's always going to be a thing. Interestingly, with the political landscape of what was going on at the time, when we first came out with this kind of concept, and we were able to get the first prototype done pretty quickly, turning it into a sellable product is a whole other thing. But the original prototype, when we brought it out, it was really interesting. First of all, everybody had an opinion.
Yeah, instantly.
And really, we got caught up in this political thing that was going on. One guy would come up and go, I hate this. And he had to tell me. That's the other funny thing too, is everybody had to tell me what they thought.
He was so bothered. You impacted him so much that he had to let you know.
He would wait for me at the SEMA show to talk to, to come up to me and just tell me how much he hated this. Yeah. Which is kind of telling in a way also. But that guy would go, I hate this. Why would you do this? The beauty of EVs is that they're quiet, and you may as well put a Trump flag on that thing. And I'd be like, gee, man, come on, we're just having fun with car sounds.
Yeah, dude, we're just car guys.
And then another guy come up and go, I hate this. He'd go, you're Borla. What are you doing anything for an EV for? May as well put a Biden flag on that thing.
Yeah, right. You just can't win. Yeah.
And we were like, man, everybody hates us. Both sides. Maybe we're the one unifying thing.
We've unified the country.
Everybody hates us,
Yeah.
But then we found out that there were guys that owned Mach-E's, and at the time we didn't have the Lightning yet. We had the Mach-E.
Yeah.
We were getting a lot of interest from guys who want to have fun with their Mach-E's. You know, we were like, you know what? The guy that doesn't own a Mach-E,
Who cares? He's not your customer anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You know, and it's like, are we worried that like we're repositioning the entire company and everybody that drives a V8 is going to turn their back on us? You know, as long as we keep doing our thing and we keep making great stuff for, you know, like we weren't that worried about
just bringing more
that,
people in under the tent.
So finally we got to the point where we could get that visceral thing going. We connected wheel speed and throttle position and load on the motor and a whole acceleration and all kinds of other things coming off the CAN bus. And we were able to write an algorithm that kind of made that connection. It was a very rudimentary algorithm at the time. We've come a long way since then. We're constantly dialing that in because it's really to the degree that you were just talking about that with the Rivian. Was that? Yeah. So that's a constant thing. We're always going to be dialing that in, and it's way better now than it was then. So that's one of the differences. But we also started to open our eyes a little bit to this. We were like, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff you could do with this that you can't do with a regular exhaust system. We were talking about attack versus S-type, right? One guy likes one guy likes the other, whatever. What if you could put them both in the same thing, and you could switch from one to the other, you know?
Or what if your high school car was a uncorked Roadrunner or something, and you're driving a Lightning?
Right.
Well, maybe you could put that sound in and remind you of your heyday or something.
Does the Mach-E have to sound like a Mustang?
Yeah.
Why can't the Mach-E sound like a Corvette?
Yeah.
Why can't the Mach-E sound like a 6.2 Silverado if you want to?
Yeah.
Then we started playing around with this idea of like changing sounds, you know, and then also being able to shut it off. That was the other thing. The guy that comes up to me and he's like, "This is the thing, you know, EVs and they're quiet, and I don't want you to mess with my neighborhood and whatever." And I'm like, you know what? You should love this product because you can turn it off. You know, the guy that buys our Attack on a vehicle that doesn't have multi-modes and valves and whatever, like that thing is gonna, you know, cold start in the morning, like that thing's gonna wake you up. But in this case, he can shut it off in the morning when he turns it on. So you should love this for that reason. So being able to control the volume, shut it off, change sounds, we were like, let's just lean into that, right? Like, let's just do something cool. So then we kind of moved to that. But where it really, I think what's going to be the most groundbreaking thing for us, and we're very close to finally doing this. And I want to say that for those of you that have been kind of on this journey with us, I fully own the fact that it's taken us a long time to get here. It's been a battle. I mean, we are a metalworking company that came out of Brooklyn. You know, my dad worked for a blacksmith, you know, like writing algorithms and building computers. Because we have to build a computer. It's called a digital signal processor, but it's a PCB board. It's a computer. And pulling CAN bus information. And I mean, for a company our size, it was just a massive thing to have to do, you know? And every time we thought we got there, we took a step back and whatever. So I fully own the fact that this has taken a long time. But we cognited on some point and realized that what this product was really going to be was going to be an app. And so we built an app for this, where you can change sounds via the app. You can download new sounds via the app. You can control the product via the app. We're going to have like geofencing, like for instance, you want to turn it down when you go home?
It'll just know when you enter your neighborhood.
It knows where you are.
Yeah.
You come home, turns it down. You
That's
can
cool.
override it. You can tweak the sounds, right? So whatever sounds come out of the box, there are filters and effects and other things that you can do to change them yourself. Save them as presets. Share them with your friends. The other thing...
I can't be trusted with something like this because I would think of like, you know, it's the Halloween sound package. And every time you hit the brakes, it would be like... So you know?
It's funny you say that. So here's the thing about that. Because this came up a lot for us.
Yeah.
We were like, how do we make sure this thing doesn't turn into like a novelty thing or a toy, right? Tesla's fart.
The fart, yeah, it's
right?
the exact same thing, yeah.
So we said, no, we're going to stick with our DNA here. And this is going to be a performance product. Not in the sense that it makes the vehicle faster, but that it adds to the performance driving experience. If it doesn't add to the performance driving experience, we're going to leave that for fart sounds and whatever else, you know? There may be some customization later or whatever where people can do whatever they want. I don't know how much we're going to open that. But as far as what we put our name on and what we're doing, what we're offering, if that doesn't have some sort of a performance angle to it, we're not going to do it. We're also kind of a buttoned-up company, and we're very mindful of making sure this thing doesn't become a toy.
Yeah.
With that said, there's another side of sound that I haven't touched on yet. I meant to say this earlier. We talked about the visceral connection. We talked about the performance side of it and all that and what that means. Sound is also personalization. It's also character. It's like a paint job, you know? And so the other thing we want to be able to offer is making the car sound like you want it to sound like, making it sound like you.
Yeah.
Right? Go to a car show, you know, like people are starting cars. How does it sound? It's a big part of our community. It's just like the cool factor of how
Dave
something
just started his car. Huh?
Right. Oh, you know, we were just talking about the Nissan motors, right? Yeah. Just like knowing that, right? And so back to what I was saying about the Fast and Furious crowd now, right? Like, and I'm Gen X, so I'm like sort of almost just missed this, or I was just on the leading edge of it, depending on how you look at it, right? But the next generation of car people, car guys, car enthusiasts, you know, grew up playing video games. Yep. They grew up with touchscreens. They grew up with cell phones. They grew up with Fast and Furious, right? Mm-hmm. My father never owned and never wanted to own a car with a touchscreen. He just had no interest in it at all. It was like, get this. I mean, it was like, you know, he wanted a manual and a, you know, I mean, I want to say carburetors, but maybe that's too extreme. But, you know, 4-speed carburetors, like, you know, and I admire that a lot. He liked what he liked. But the new generation isn't you know, against electronics and all that other stuff. So we feel like it just really kind of fits what the next generation of car guys. And think about it. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm really saying is, imagine being able to have unlimited control of the sound of your vehicle through your phone.
Well, you think about it, you go back to touchscreens in modern vehicles, there's so much personalization now where you can change the ambient lighting. You can change how bright something is. You can change, like, what's the wallpaper on your screen. You can change, right? So why wouldn't sound be the next progression? Even cars you can change the gauges and the way they look. You know, I think on the new Mustang has a Fox body gauge cluster on it.
That's so cool. Yeah.
So like guys like us who grew up around Fox bodies, we go, it's funny.
I want to buy that the twin turbo 300ZX from back in the day, but I don't want the one that everybody talks about. I want the one with the digital dash, like the previous version, just because I want the digital dash, that 80s digital dash. You know,
it reminds you of Knight Rider a little bit.
Yeah, like really. You know, so you know, the thing about it is just like understanding that this is where this can go and what this can really be. And so, like I said, we really just leaned into that, and it was kind of funny because originally it was all about like, okay, we're going to bring the visceral connection back. We went out and we still do this. We go out and we have this proprietary thing that we came up with to record the sound and connect it to throttle position and wheel speed. And by the way, we're using modeling technology, which is, it's not replaying sound clips. It's generating the sound.
That's pretty cool.
Which is, you know, we could spend the rest of the day talking about what that means, but we're using modeling technology, not like wave files and stuff like that. And so originally we were like, let's go out and do all of our, you know, iconic V8 exhaust systems. You know, we did that, and that was cool, and that was sort of like the first version of it, and it was interesting and all that stuff. But what we've noticed as time has gone on, this market that I'm talking about, these same touchscreen generation, whatever, they want what we call spaceship sounds or futuristic sounds. I'm not so sure long term how much the V8 stuff is even going to matter on these cars. They want TIE fighters and Buck
Jetson
Rogers.
cars.
So as you heard on the Lightning right now that we have, the way it works is like we have a dashboard controller that give you four sounds that you can switch from. But then we have a sound library with hundreds that through the app you can configure, you know, so like you can park it, put it in park, whatever, download a couple more sounds, change the 4 that are on there. So what I have on there right now, 3 of them are spaceship sounds and 1's a V8. Those spaceship sounds just, I'm a musician, as you mentioned. I love synthesizers. The gentleman that we have working on this program, he moonlights as a synthesizer repair. He can repair synthesizers, and you know, he understands how they generate all those tones and all those notes. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but we've even reached out to some of the iconic synthesizer companies.
Yeah.
They're interested in kind of working with us to use some of their iconic sounds throughout the years and
that's kind of cool.
turn it into a car thing. So we envision electronic dance music DJs and stuff working with us and creating a sound, a sound for them.
So I heard it earlier, so you want to walk down and we can record some of it from the Lightning?
Yeah.
I thought it sounded pretty cool because I hadn't seen it in a while.
I tell you, I just want to talk a little bit about the overall market. And,
no, definitely.
Look, when EVs came out, we had all grown up with one way to power a car.
Yeah.
So it's just human nature to think that this is going to be black or white, and it's internal combustion versus EV. And pick a side, and one's going to win. Which side are you on?
Yeah.
Especially in today's day and age, the polarity is just,
Yeah.
And I got to say, from the beginning, my gut told me, and I grew up in this industry, so maybe I have a little bit of a perspective on it, and I'm very fortunate to be who I am, so I don't mean this to be like, I knew it, or anything like that, but from what I could see, I'm like, neither one of them is going to win. There's going to be a place for both of them.
It's going to be a tapestry of technology.
The 100% electric thing, and Gavin Newsom, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
That was stupid.
Yeah.
And I tell you why it was stupid.
Still
because
stupid.
it made a bunch of people hate EVs.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Not only
it
that,
worked
but
against your own thing.
You're right. And we don't even have the energy on the grid to do it. So it's like it wasn't even like a realistic goal.
That too.
It was setting us up for disappointment.
But even not even getting into that.
Yeah.
It was like you drew a line.
You
in
bet
the stand.
against yourself.
And you sort of made us have to pick a side.
Yeah.
Right? Like let this thing grow organically. The cars are cool. The V8 guys that rejected it and all that stuff, they may have been a little bit more accepting of it.
I had a 2-year Nissan Ariya lease that just ended. So I had my V8 Jeep and I had my EV. My daily driver was the EV because it was the perfect around town car. And my daughter's school's in our tract. I couldn't get the V8 warmed up by the time I dropped her off and came home. EV didn't care.
Right.
We just got in and drove it. It was like the most brainless appliance ever, but it was quiet. It was comfortable. It had all the tech I wanted, and it was cheap.
And they're fast. Some of them are faster. Some things about it that enthusiasts would have liked. But when you shoved it down our throats, it did a disservice to everybody. And that was a gigantic mistake for the EV market. Everybody thought, okay, we're going to put in legislation. We're going to do all this to force everybody to buy
put their hand on the scale.
And they just created a lot of haters unnecessarily for that. On the other side, anybody who thought, well, these things are just going to completely die. It's the end of EVs. You're never going to see them again.
That's not happening either.
That wasn't correct either. And so what I see is some sort of like sobriety kind of coming into this whole thing now, where it's starting to make sense. Hydrogen's on the horizon. That could come by the end of my lifetime, which I hope to live a long lifetime.
I would. Me too. I'm hard to kill, by the way, as it turns out.
Well, I know. We've proven it. There may be 3 or 4 different types of ways to power a car. And really, frankly, my kids, their kids, whatever, without all of this history, maybe a car guy 100 years from now is going to love all 4 of them.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
They're cars.
There's things to like about all of them. It's just like the diesel versus gas. I like both for different reasons.
Right.
The EV was my perfect second car.
So that's what I see going on. That's where we're coming from with this whole thing. This Lightning that we own, the business owns it, but like I said to myself, if I'm going to try to serve this market, I need to understand it. So I drove it as my daily for a year. My kids, we went on trips with it, the whole thing. There's some things about it we loved. It was and really, frankly, yes, I do also own my daily driver is a Durango Hellcat. So having both of those,
and I've heard that before, and it sounds awesome.
But I love having both. It's cool as hell.
Choice is good. All right, let's go sit in the Lightning. I want to hear that thing.
Right on.
All right, so we've moved outside and we're sitting in the Lightning we were just talking about. I feel like I'm in the Borla R&D test kitchen because this is still prototype. It's something you've been working on, but you've got, I guess the last time I remember it was mock E-pieces and you'd shown us the box and the speakers and a little bit. But now we're sitting in an actual truck that's got like a controller, and I'm excited to hear and kind of get a sense for the direction you guys are going with this.
You can see it's like the dash is half open, and we got the wiring harness hanging out.
And it looks like you have it's an amplifier, controller or something. But there's 2 knobs on it, and
so you see there are these are the 4 different positions, and here's your volume knob. What I'm about to play you guys, really, you might argue I shouldn't, because these aren't the speakers we're going to use, and it's not the amplifier we're going to use. So this has already come a lot further than this is, but I'm so excited to play it for you.
So is this coming through the internal and an external speaker?
No, it's only external.
Okay.
One of the things we realized is that originally we did have speakers inside, and it wasn't necessary. What we realized is that the way that you basically attach the speakers to the frame of the vehicle controls the cabin. So
okay.
We actually originally just very rigidly bolted the speakers to the frame,
and that way the vibration
and it was so loud in the cabin.
Oh, really?
We had to. So we're actually in the future considering offering different types of isolators.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you can control how much you want in the cabin, but regardless, it's not necessary. When we start working with OEs, which they're already very interested in this, we do envision maybe eventually integrating it with the factory stuff from the beginning.
That's got to be a pretty good feeling that you ideated this and it's caught the attention of the OEs in a completely different category than the business has been in. They're like, hey, we already work with you, we know you, and you just solved a problem that we didn't know we need solving.
Yeah. I think it kind of qualifies as one of those things that's probably not for everybody, and probably for a pretty select group. And typically the OEs are kind of worried about the 90%, not the 10%, whereas the automotive aftermarket, really all of us, we kind of live with that. We live in that 10%. They're backing a Ram out right now, so if you hear some V8 sounds, that's what's going on there.
All right, so the cool sounding prototype Ram just moved around us. All right, so I think is he gonna drive by us? I saw the gate open here.
Yeah, I think he's returning the vehicle, or maybe they're going for a test.
I'll get him while he comes by here. Yeah, I don't hate that. That's gonna be me driving home, by the way.
Sounds like definitely not an attack. That sounds like either touring or S-Type.
Super mellow, but it sounded great.
We talked earlier about what could we do differently, right? And we know that startup sound is something that people really care about.
Yeah, kind of like the splash screen on the display or whatever.
Sure, and then started thinking about what does a spaceship sound like, or what could a spaceship startup sound like? So first thing you're going to hear is the startup sound. Then you'll hear it kind of settle, and then I'll be able to control some of what's going on with the throttle, and then I'll toggle through some of the sounds, and you'll hear it. We're working on it. It's a tough thing, but we're pretty close. So here we go. Let's do the startup.
I feel like I'm going into warp drive. That's so cool.
And when the car's moving and you elevation changes and all kinds of other things, right now we're stationary, so can only do so much with it. So here's another spaceship sound. You'll hear it change.
This sounds like the security force that's protecting the other spaceship.
Nice, yeah. A little deeper, a little throatier, kind of different. And I think I have one more spaceship sound. And then I believe we have a V8 on here. I can't remember which one it is.
I don't know. Sounds like a Le Mans V8 or something like that. That is so cool.
With the rev limiter and all that. And
it's weird sitting here, like you're talking about the vibration and the sound, and like you can feel it in the seat cushions.
Yeah, there's with nothing in here.
Yeah, and we have the window open so that the microphone could pick it up more, but I can feel all that coming through, and it's like it almost it's weird that it's digital and it's manufactured, because I still have that same sort of adrenaline dump.
Awesome.
That you would feel viscerally from a vehicle revving through the rev range and building speed, but we're sitting here standing still, and I still have that kind of adrenaline feel, or my heart rate responds to the sound. That's
awesome, and
super
it's
weird.
Even more so when the vehicle's moving. What we found is that, like, when you're in your own space and you forget about, do I like this, do I not like this, politics and all this other stuff, and you have that moment in your day where you maybe get in a canyon and you're left work, you're on your way home to your family, and it's like that sort of special moment for you during your day, and you forget about all this becomes something meaningful. And interestingly, I don't know why this is, and I've seen it as a musician as well, when people say they notice it most is when they drive it for a while and then they shut it off, or you take it away from them,
and then they're like, when something's missing,
they're like, whoa, I will bring that back, like I need that back. That moment is almost more powerful than the first moment you hear it. And it's interesting, like in the studio this would happen. I got a chance to work with some great producers and stuff, and one of the things that they would do with like a bass track or something, it wasn't so much can I hear the bass as much as it was, when I mute the bass, do I miss it from the sound? Is it like, so that I didn't articulate it as well as I'd like, but like that moment when it's gone,
my daughter plays
like,
bass,
I want it back.
So I've been paying a lot more attention to bass and stuff now, because she's been learning bass and playing.
Yeah, there are a lot of records out there where they say, like, you can't hear the bass, and then it's like, well, yeah, if you dropped it out, they've even had them go back, bring the multi-tracks up, and they're like, look what happens when I take it out, and you're like, whoa, the whole bottom is missing.
Well, this was a super cool experience. I can't wait to see the next version, or when you get it into production. I'll have to come back up because I want to be able to experience it while we're driving. But I'm pretty excited to be able to experience my new S-Type exhaust on the way home in the Jeep.
I think we're going to go Rivian and Hummer. And one of the other things about all of this is that it's not like an exhaust system where you have to start from scratch every time they come out with a new one, a new truck or a new version, right? The algorithm's going to be the same, the speakers are the same, the amplifiers are the same, so we're going to be able to scale this pretty quickly. It's going to be available for a lot of different EVs. But this is a labor of love for us. It's actually kind of, at this point, because there's a little bit of a downturn in the sort of excitement over EVs. It's kind of, V8s and internal combustion cars and all that. It's still very much our focus.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to hear how you enjoy our exhaust. Although I'll say you already know it because you had one already. But,
well, I can't wait to get on the freeway and just punch it to merge. So,
look, it's well behaved. It's gnarly and it's rowdy and all that, but it's also well behaved. So.
Well, I will be texting you when I get home to let you know me and my new exhaust got there.
Awesome.
And thanks for having me up. Thanks for sharing all this. And, of course, if people want to find out more, then go to Borla.com. And you guys are also on social. But, again, if you're looking for an exhaust for your truck, go to Borla, because they have stock, and then they have the sound, the videos that are really well produced of the different versions. And it's amazing how much information is on there. So they make it really easy for you to find the one that's right for you.
Thanks so much. Great to see you, Sean. Thank you.
Wow. So how about that for a day with David Borla at Borla Performance? He's been a supporter of the show for quite a while, and the company makes fantastic products. Again, T304 stainless, awesome no-drone technology, great sound, and a 1,000,000-mile warranty. Again, you can find out more at Borla.com. By the way, I bet you're sitting here thinking, well, what does it sound like? So here are a couple of quick clips with the Borla exhaust with the valves open and valves closed, and the Borla startup to end the show. And one more. So what do you think? I think it sounds pretty good. In fact, I was playing with the decibel meter, and it's pretty interesting. On the quiet side at cruise, it's actually at lower speeds, like 55, 60. It's about a decibel lower than stock. It's pretty quiet. But man, when you get on it, it is loud and it is rowdy. And it's pretty awesome. So it's probably at cruise at 70, 75, maybe adds a decibel and a half over stock in the quiet mode. And of course, in the loud mode, it's you'll be noticed. So it's nice to have the button, that's for sure. So I like to call that the happy neighbor mode. But I like it. I think it's pretty awesome. Well, send me your thoughts by emailing the show at truckshowpodcast@gmail.com or following us on social at Truck Show Podcast or at Sean P. Holman.
The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show, oh, oh.
And if you want to be on the show, please leave us a message on the 5-star hotline, 657-205-6105. And also join the Facebook group, Podshed Insiders. And before we go, we got to thank our sponsors, AMSOIL at AMSOIL.com. For those of you who love your vehicles and want the best synthetics, oil change kits, car care products, etc., it's the same stuff we use in our vehicles. And if you want an awesome knife at a great price, Kershaw is where you want to go. You can find them at kershaw.kaiusa.com. And the best and high-quality adventure, gear, lifestyle, and vehicle reviews only found in the pages of OVR Magazine. Get free access to our digital library or discount on print by heading to ovrmag.com and using the code @TruckShowPodcast. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was a long one, but lots of great content in there, a lot of cool stuff from Borla and the state of the industry. And I honestly got a lot more from the EV stuff than I thought I would. And I got to tell you, I was really impressed in person how far they've come, and it's so much different from where he started. So I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, what do you say? Let's do it again soon.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis, hosted by Sean Holman, and uses production elements by DJ Omar Khan and Jay Tillis. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to support the show than by sharing it and patronizing our sponsors. Some vehicles may have been harmed during the making of this podcast.
Alright, so I'm driving the Jeep home. This is quiet mode. This is loud mode. And here's a quick acceleration run. Back to quiet. Oops. That's a little loud. Not Darren loud, but it's loud.